Hey, all right, so we're going to talk about rendering real quick. You're going to be doing this all the time. Um, and it's critical that you get this right because it's how the little pipeline of getting your product to me is going to be done most efficiently and effectively, right? So watch this. I am going to make sure that I select my final composition. It's the one that has everything all put together, all assembled. The different comps that we're using, nesting comps, all the different type elements, etc. Musical touches or sound effects if you're doing that inside After Effects. So I've got my little motion logo here that I made for the School of Visual Media Arts. And I'm ready to turn it into a movie because right now it's just a project. If you send me a project, I'm not going to be able to see anything because you're probably not going to include all the files that we used, all the assets, etc. So we have to squeeze it all together and do a movie, a QuickTime movie. So I'm going to do the way I like to do it is I use the composition menu and I just go to composition, add to Adobe Media Encoder queue. It's a lot of words. Or you can go to File, Export, Add to Adobe Media Encoder queue. All right. So either of those is going to take you to the same place. So when I add that, it might take a minute. So you got to be patient. If nothing's happening, you just got to sit there, be tight, wait for the magic to happen, and boom, there it is. So it finally opened up my media encoder, and it has my file ready for some of my input, and that input is critical. So this is where all the really important stuff happens. I already had Media Encoder open, so that was relatively fast. If you don't have Media Encoder opened, it's going to open it in the background. It's going to do all its loading the presets and blah, 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 and this and that. And then it'll finally open up. So like I said, just be patient. It'll happen. Number one, you start, I like to start right and move left. This is, what do you want to call it and where is it going to live? It's critical for us to be organized. Great habit. If you're not organized, good time to start. I love my students to go through the process of being super anal about organizational habits with our digital computing. Okay, so I'm going to click on that link, and it's going to open up a window for me that says, "All right, where do you want it?" And I'm going to say, "I'm going to put you in Media Arts, and this is for promotional, and it's a Sovma logo, and it's the intro bumper. And I'm going to stash it in here." If you don't have folder structure set up yet, which you should, that's fine. You can do that here. So if I didn't have the right place for it, maybe I go to my Media Arts folder and I can click on new folder here. Or if you're on a PC, you know how to add a new folder. And then I would call that folder whatever the project is. And then inside that folder, I would do renders, another folder called renders, and then I would stick it in there. A common thread for me, like I just finished a project for First Security Bank. The project was called Social Animations. And then here I have the different projects for all the different social animations that I had. And then I have a renders folder. Inside my renders folder is each project has its own folder inside my renders. So if I went to Fisherman, then there's like all my little roughs and stuff, my test renders. And then I have a finals folder to where the very finished product ends up. So that's how critical a good structure of organizational hierarchy is for digital organization. I'm not going to put it in there though. I'm just going to go back to where I was. Promotional, Sovma, intro bumper. I'm going to stick it here. And I'm going to call it LR for low res, just because I have so many other ones in here. I have to differentiate this. So then now it knows what you're going to call it and where it's going to go. Now you can also remember once you've rendered it where you can go find it when you have to submit it to Moodle. I can't tell you how many times I've sat there and watched students go, "I don't know where I put it. I don't know." And then they like go to their desktop and it's just full of files all over the place, and half of them are called untitled 1, 2, 3, 4, or whatever. So be really conscious about what you're doing here. All right, now we're going to jump over to the left side. And this is where you have to make sure that you're choosing the right compression. So if you click on the little arrow, that pops up a little list for you, a menu that gives you all the different types of compression that you can use for this. And what I'm asking you to compress with is H264. Everyone should have this in their media encoder, whether you're using a Mac or a PC. So you choose H264. Then to the right of that is another triangle where you can choose different presets. And so the presets here are quite varied. Oh, you're not going to see the one that I need to do because my screen capture is too low. Now you can see it. So there's like high res ones, which is match your source. And sometimes like when you're trying to send somebody the best thing possible, you'd want to do a match source. There's a Facebook option. There's a Twitter option. There's Vimeo. But what I want us to use is the YouTube 720p HD. That way it's not going to be full 1920 1080. It's going to be half the size at 720. And then the P is for progressive, which is what we're doing. That's all HD, the way that the images are drawn on screen. So now I have H264, my YouTube 720p. I know where it's going. I named it. And then you just need to hit play. And it's going to go through and it's going to say, hey, we're connecting to a dynamic link server. And then you should start to see your little preview happen. I can't even tell you what's going on when it's doing all this other stuff, but I recognize this. It's analyzing each frame and it's assembling it together as a package and a movie. Now it's done. And I should know that I can go to that folder, find that file, and then upload that to Moodle for the assignment submission. Cool? All right. Holler if you need anything else.